Hello, everyone. There you go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session two. And we're going to meditate for 10 minutes and then followed by, we're going to read this chapter two of the book, Dissolving the Ego. Okay. Now, just sit comfortably wherever you are. Take a deep breath. Bring your attention to the breath. Bring your awareness to the breath, to the sound of my voice, to the gaps in between the sound. Notice the awareness itself. If there is a thought, be aware of the thought. Notice the awareness itself. Notice any sensation on your body, any stress. Just be aware of the stress holding your muscles, any body sensations. Be aware of the awareness itself. And there is nothing to be aware. Bring back your attention to the breath. It is breath. There is awareness of the breath. And notice that awareness. Your mind wanders into the thoughts. Just be aware of the thoughts. There are thoughts. You are aware of the thoughts. Notice the awareness. Be aware of the silence. Between the words, the sound arises, then disappears. Be aware of that sensation of sound. The mind quickly go with the thoughts. Just bring the awareness to the thoughts and notice the awareness itself. It is natural to it's natural for the mind to go along with the thoughts. Just bring back your attention, the thoughts, your breath, or to any sensation, body. Just be aware of it. Back your attention, breath, aware of sensations. Another deep. Slowly open your eyes and pay attention to the room that you're sitting. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for that
Thanks, Anjan.
meditation altogether. Yeah. So let's get to the reading of the book. Um, I think last week, just a recap, we there is an echo coming back. Can you go on mute, Sanya?
Hmm? Oh.
Yeah, I think it's coming mute echo from your side. Yeah. So last week we did a chapter one and we got to know pneumonon and phenomenon. And now let's directly get into chapter two. Um, uh, does everyone has a book, or who doesn't have a book? Everyone has a book. Very nice, cool. Okay, can we start with Preeti reading? Start reading. Is it possible, Preeti?
Yeah. Can we
Okay.
just do a quick recap of last week?
Yeah, if you could, it would be nice. Is it
Oh,
possible for you to recap?
let's see. So we talked about noumenon, phenomenon. So noumenon is a thing as it in itself, as distinct from a thing that's knowable by senses. So something that we know through our senses.
Hmm.
And phenomenon, it's something that says object of a person's perception, a fact or situation that's observed to exist. Oh,
Yeah.
no, no, sorry, I said it wrong.
Yeah.
So
So that,
phenomenon is something we get from our senses. Maybe
yeah.
someone else, feel free to recap if someone else knows what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
Okay, I'll just touch on. I think we are just to get that the memory refresh. We don't have to go into it. We distinguish pneumonon and phenomenon. Pneumonon, which is always there, which is no end, no start. It's always there. That's what we thought. Like we understood. And second, we have two habits that we have, which is always there, and that's what we are targeting to change or like transform. The habit one, to value pneumonon, the phenomenon above that which they arise in, to value phenomenon as the most important thing. That's a first habit. It's kind of a bad habit if you want to call it that way. Habit two, I mean, good or bad is just my term, but anyway, just you get the point, right? There's habit two, the habit of putting all of our attention on what comes and goes and giving no attention at all to what is essential, eternal. What is eternal is pneumonon. The habit is not giving no attention to it. Okay. Then I'm just skipping through, and then we talked about ego. What is ego? And then how did the ego form? So we talk about that in the chapter one. Sorry, is that chapter one or chapter two? Yeah, we already in chapter two, right? What is ego is the chapter two, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think let's start with that. I think we're good with that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
So what is ego?
Yeah.
So
Chapter
we didn't
two.
read any of that last time.
No, no, just go for it.
Okay.
Chapter
The
two.
ego is really that part of us that believes that we are a separate being, alone in time and space, and trying to make it through life. The ego is not to be judged as wrong or to be alienated in any way, even though it seems to be the cause of our suffering. True understanding of what the ego is will immediately begin to dissolve it. Then we can see it is no longer an enemy to be defeated, but simply the animalistic part of ourselves that allows us to survive up until this point, allowed us to survive up until this point. Just like the software program on a computer that is now in need of an upgrade, we can see this sense of being a separate someone served us for a while, but now we are ready to upgrade. How did the ego form? The egoic sense of self is simply an energetic mass of beliefs, conditioning, and habits of thought that have taken on a life of their own with the investment of our belief. At first, there was only this pure self that you are. Then, at some point, the body appeared in your awareness. Suddenly, there was a sense of you being inside this body, and you began to identify with the body. Over time, as an infant, you began to learn how to make this body do what it wanted to do, and gradually you began to forget that you were the one operating all bodies. This human body that you had now become became the focus of all your attention. As the body and brain grew and matured, the thoughts about the body and mind became more and more complex. Conditioning was given to you that this body is what you are and that you are separate from others, from the self, and from peace. In time, the belief that you are this body grew and became a very strong neural pathway in the brain. You began to unconsciously filter out any experiences that were in opposition to this belief, and you began to try to accumulate all that you could to get to make you feel more secure. Fear replaced peace, and tension replaced relaxation as the normal emotions. As your ability to think about yourself grew and you reached adolescence, you began to add to the definition of what you took yourself to be. Along with the body, you now believed yourself to be the mind too. So you began to treasure and protect the content of your mind. All the various thoughts that began to emerge were owned as mine. Opinions, beliefs, desires, goals, and dreams that you had all became a part of me. And so did all your thoughts about your feelings, your lack of worth, things that you still need to get, and much more. This sense of me was now a complex mix, and body, mind, and belief were in a constant state of need. This need to accumulate things and possessions to feel safe began to expand, and you began to try to accumulate intangible things such as self-worth, self-respect, love, appreciation, and security. This is where you stayed for many lifetimes, as the bodies came and went. Each time a body appeared, you began to accumulate and struggle in a world which did not seem to ever be able to give you enough to feel complete and safe. If a sense of completion did come, it was short-lived, perhaps the product of some sporting or academic achievement, or as a result of finding the right mate or having children. In time, this too did not satisfy that void that was felt inside. Nothing can satisfy this void because it's the result of the false belief in being a someone located inside a body and vulnerable to poverty, disease, adversity, and an eventual end when the body dies.
Yeah. Thanks, Preeti. Now, who wants to read next? Yeah, Latha. Thank you.
The dawning of wisdom. The harder your mind and body try to find happiness in the world, the more elusive it seemed to you. Eventually, you began to give hope and began to question whether the struggle for existence was all there was. Questions began to appear in your mind that had never happened before, such as, what is the point of all this? And there must be more to life than this. A doorway was opened in that moment to begin to see the truth of your being, that you have never been limited or separate. At some point, you encountered a true teacher or teaching, and you began to see that perhaps all that was ever wrong was that you had mistakenly identified yourself as something that comes and goes, a body and a mind. Now, you have drawn to you the means to turn around this belief and to begin to let go of it. The egoic sense of self is simply a collection of thought patterns in the mind about what we are. They have served us well to allow us to be mature enough as an adult to be able to contemplate what is beyond the egoic sense of self. Now it is time to move beyond. Like an old jacket that no longer fits, we can simply take off the belief of being separate and begin to put more attention on our true nature as the infinite one. How do we dissolve the ego? We don't necessarily need to make an effort to dissolve the ego because it does not really exist as an actual entity. It is simply a collection of familiar thoughts mixed with attention and investment of belief that they are mine or me. This collective bundle of beliefs about life, ourselves, the world, God, the universe is what we take ourselves to be and needs constant reinforcement of all the time. Note how you can hear people constantly reaffirming their meanness when talking, and how it seems more real when you talk about it. The egoic sense of being a separate someone needs an enormous amount of energy to be fed to it constantly, and this has been happening for so long that you have forgotten just how much. As you begin to take attention away from this sense of you, you will begin to feel a more and more effortless state appearing. This perhaps may be the first state of the noumenon. It feels like home, security, completeness, and peace. It may initially take some effort on your part to stay vigilant as we hold attention on what is true about us and refuse the attention going with the thoughts. Attention automatically will go with the thoughts if we do not stay observant. We must simply keep attention on the noumenon by using one of the practices in stage one. We can then allow the egoic sense of me to dissolve just like an old ruined building will immediately begin to collapse if we stop running around constantly propping it up. What if falls away once seen to be false and we need not do anything to make that happen? We are the self believing ourselves to be the separate sense of self. We must make use of the separate sense of self while it's here. It is, in fact, the reason for having this complex human brain that is capable of contemplating itself, and this ability is present in no other species except humanity. We must learn to use this sense of self to focus consistently and only on the self. We must use the practices in stage one, two, and three to focus on the true self like a laser beam, and this begins to burn away all the delusion and illusion about our true nature. This awareness that we are has the ability to focus on something when it flows through this body. Use this focusing ability like a lighthouse that can light the truth of your being. The small self has been focused consistently on the world outside and on the objects of our sense perception. This gave us the illusion of being someone viewing the world out there and having an independent, separate existence from it. As we turn attention around 180 degrees onto that self that is looking at itself, we begin to allow the truth to reveal itself to us. The noumenon cannot reveal itself to us when we are more interested in what is out there. Everything we think, what everything we think we see is really appearing in here in our mind. Focus the self on the self and hold attention there as is described in stage one, and all your problems will begin to disappear.
Great. Thank you, Lata, for the read. Who else want to read? Yes, Sanya, you want to read? Yeah.
I'll try.
You want to read?
Yeah, I'll try.
Mm.
Why do we want to dissolve the ego? As long as we feel deep down that we are separate from God, from what we want, from life, from others around us, or from even the noumenon, we will always act from a basis of lack, fear, and survival. Inherited in the sense of being separate is lack and fear. We will always believe ourselves to be the one trying to get back to God or find our way home. Whether we believe we need outer tangible things or inner intangible things, we will always be constantly driven with no rest inside. We will always be trying to accumulate knowledge, power, wealth, friends, love, security, and whatever else we think we need to be happy and safe. As spiritual students, we can spend many lifetimes driven by the search for freedom, always believing it to be something out there, or some state or place where we can reach and finally be home. We will always be looking for ourselves by doing some work to get there, while missing the essential point that we are already what we are searching for, but we have not recognized it ourselves. When the ego dissolves, it leaves only realization that everything was always perfect and complete, and that there never could have been any lack. Even once you have started the process in earnest, you will begin to notice more clarity, peace, a sense of growing freedom, and that nothing ever was wrong in the first place. The ego sense of itself was needed to ensure the survival of the human species, but now it is time to let go of all the limiting self-definitions and wake up fully to the truth of your being. You are the nomenon which another human experience, and once you know this, then you will live in peace. The only way to live in this true reality is to be willing to see where you have still believed yourself to be something limited, finity. If you are willing to see this, then it will dissolve and you are free. Enjoy the human experience without any fear. Take in all that human life has to offer and know that what you cannot end, live. This life is your body fully, and embrace every experience, but from your true place of being, the infinity one.
The right one. Okay. That's great. Thanks, Sonia, for reading. Okay, good. I think that's the end of chapter 2. Okay. Very nice. Just go to the sharing of from the reading. Uh, Anybody got any specific insights or anything, any phrase that catch your attention, and why?
It's interesting how she says you don't have to work to get rid of the ego because it's not really real in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's nice, because if it's when things which is false will disappear anyway.
Mm.
Okay, thanks, Priti. Who else? What caught your attention the most in the reading, and why?
Something that came to my thoughts: we can spend many lifetimes driven by the search for freedom, and that is something we can achieve in this life. I think that's what
That caught your attention, Hiran?
Yep, and we can go back home where we came from.
Got it. Thanks, Hiran. Yes, Gagan?
I think I like this one. When the ego dissolves, it leaves only the realization that everything was always perfect and complete, that there never could have been any lack. I
Okay.
feel like yes, that's really important thing. When ego dissolves, you realize everything was already perfect. You are just, trying to make things the way you want it,
Yeah. Thank
following the
you.
ego.
Mm, got you. Yeah. Poonam, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was looking into this. The harder your mind and body try to find happiness in the world, the more elusive it seemed to you. And eventually you began to give up hope and began to question whether this struggle for existence was all there was. And question began to appear in your mind that had never happened before, such as what is the point of all this? And there must be more to life than this. So a doorway was opened in that moment to begin to see the truth of your being, that you have never been limited or separate. So means like so yeah, I'm just thinking about this, that this is a kind of a wisdom. Like when you are trying to achieve something more and more, it's like eventually you start losing interest in it. Like that's what I'm thinking.
Okay. That's
Like
what uh,
hmm. And
got
then we
grabbed.
think like, what is the point of all this? Like for example, enlightenment. Everybody is saying that we have to be enlightenment, and
Mm,
I'm thinking, what's the point of this? Why we need enlightenment? Why are we not complete as it is, whatever we are?
mm-hmm.
Why do we need to show the world that we are enlightened or what? Same
Yeah.
thing. That was, I was questioning myself. What is the purpose of? Hmm?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's me.
Got you, Poonam. Yeah, that's good inquiry. I think what I see is like we made
That's a
enlightenment
kind of
is
a
for us.
wisdom.
Yeah.
More we
Enlightenment
chase things,
is,
yeah.
yeah.
The
I
more
think,
we
and
chase things, they will keep getting away, and then finally we lose hope. Oh no, it's not for me.
There's a
yeah.
part in the earlier chapters where she says it becomes unbearable. There becomes a point where just leaving that separate sense, separate life, or however she describes it, it becomes unbearable. So you feel
Yeah.
like you just
Being
have to go
separate
down the
is
path.
hard work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It becomes hard work to be separate.
my
And
understanding, so sorry to interrupt, Jen. My
mm,
understanding was like, so she's telling how this ego is formed, like
mm,
pure, like through belief,
mm,
like how this, say, if you're from some community or something, they believe that's been fed into your mind right from young age, and you start believing it. That's how all this ego, like about the body or about the mind, that's how all the belief started, and you became so like so much into it, like it's inseparable. So that's how the ego is formed. And then the second one, it says the dawning of wisdom. When you realize, say, even if you put it in a positive way, you keep achieving. Okay, I want to become something. Yes, you become that, and then later, next step, next step, next step. So even if you keep achieving, then there comes a point, okay, yes, but still you feel some void. That's where I think that point, what is the point of all this?
Yeah.
There is more to life. That's when you feel to that wisdom, the dawning of wisdom. That's when you realize this is for a positive, sometimes for a negative as well, like something you believe that is close to me, without that I can't do anything. When that disappears, then also that this question may come, what the point of all, you know, then the dawning of wisdom. That's when the doorway open. That's how my understanding is.
okay. That's good.
Mhm.
That's good, Latha. I mean, is it a question or is it a sharing that that's what
My
you,
understanding of
yes. Yeah.
the way she is put.
Okay. No, that's fine.
Mm,
That's good. Look, the idea is to get where what's your reflection. That's it. But it's good. I mean,
mm,
different. All of us has a
mm,
different thing to take away. We don't want to dissect it. What's understanding is correct or wrong, right? It's fine.
mm,
Okay,
mm.
good. What caught my attention is this. There is a phrase which says, we can then allow the egoic sense of me to dissolve. Just like an old ruined building will immediately begin to collapse if we stop running around constantly propping it up. This reminds me of my childhood in our village, where there's a house which was not, nobody lives there, right? And if nobody lives there, after a couple of years you don't have to do anything, it will just fall by itself, right? And whereas same house where people are living, I mean, a little bit of maintenance, they don't do any structural changes, but just cleaning and brooming it every day, just leave people leaving, and the house still lives for years, like 20 years, 10, 30 years. But the one which was just nobody goes there, nobody attends to it, just collapses in couple of years. That's so vivid, like growing up, and that I could easily relate. That what caught my attention. So ego will just, if you don't give sufficient attention, it will collapse, is inspiring thing for me from this chapter.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anyone want to say the last thing before we close? I think we are on the exactly.
Is there anyone we haven't heard from? I think Omkar.
Hey, hi guys. So one line that caught my mind was on this: Numenon cannot reveal itself to us when we are more interested in what is out there. So
what is out there? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we are trying to search for that, whatever that awareness or the self, which is actually, we don't have to find it, it's just there within us. But that's the most confusing part, right? That how do you reach there is that you have to let go of the ego.
Great. Thanks, Omkar, for sharing. Yeah. So that ends our session for today.